Hello. Leading up to this, we have taken an animation sequence from the Manny character that comes in your Unreal third person project. We have retargeted that to our character that came from Mixamo and self-produced mesh. We have stolen the mesh pose from that to get the static mesh here, and then we've filled that with the standard mannequin skeleton, and the result is this. Okay, so the skeleton there, so there's a SK mannequin skeleton, and we have not a bad match, but it does really need some adjustment. So you can see the shoulders are too high, the pelvis is too high, the elbows, knees and wrists need kind of moving around somewhat. Okay, so there's some fairly decent editing tools for skeletons, including allowing you to add stuff to the skeleton. We don't need to do that, but we do need to just position it better. So it's fairly quick to do, fairly quick and easy. One really useful thing to do is to use the ALT key next to the spacebar. So when I left click and drag, I can orbit the character. So I'm not sure how well documented that is. I think I found it by accident. But anyway, that makes things much easier for placing the bones. And you can see from the side view, it's not too bad. There's still a bit of adjustment that will be good though. Okay, so the next thing then is to start navigating around the bones. So you can do a certain amount by kind of click and hope. So you can see there's these sort of bulker items that help kind of fill out the mesh, and it just so happens they'll work pretty well with this mesh. An alternative approach is if you choose here the SKM, you don't get these things, you just get the bones for some reason, which makes it maybe slightly easier, I don't know, but anyway, so if you had a more kind of radically different mesh from the Manny or the Quinn character, then it might be better to use the SKM in here. Okay, so we're currently set to rotate, which is no good, so we'll go for that setting there. Now you can see that this appears to be off at an angle, and it's at the angle that is the provided angle for the clavicle that I've just selected there. So you can see that represented here. I'm just going to go to the edit skeleton button, never forget that one. But so I'd rather move this just straight down and not be messing with any. So I'll change this to world space rather than local space. So you need to keep your eye out for that bit. And as you can see there, that allows me to move this very much straight down. Now because I've moved this off of central, I'm just going to approximate manually. But as long as I make sure I'm in world space, I'm working towards the axes and everything should be following on. Before I go ahead and do this though, have a quick look down here. Now it's selected all the children of clavicle L, but it's not actually going to change them unless I do this. And this is a setting which I kind of think they should have as a default, because it's very easy to kind of end up following the trail down. So I move this down here and make sure those things kind of fit decently at the shoulder, and then of course it sends the arm a bit out. So then you trail down the skeleton, and the next objective is to move this into position so that it can be good where it goes, and then we follow down to the lower arm and move that into position. And here's where I probably need to go to the side view. Indeed I do. And I can see there that the side view is a little bit out of position as well. So move the whole thing forward. There, that's a lot better. So the upper arm is pretty good, and it's the lower arm now that we need to joggle into position. These squares mean you're working on two axes simultaneously, which is kind of the axes that you're not looking down, is usually the best way of doing that. Now the hand's not far off, and so you skate over these twists and go straight down to L, hand L, because it's the next in the connected chain. These twist things and corrective roots are they're not part of the chain that goes down to the hand. And because my hand mesh isn't really big enough for the hand bones as they are, I'm not going to spend any time kind of fixing those, but obviously that's something that maybe reflects back into your modelling. Like I could go back into my modelling software and just size up that hand a little bit just to facilitate the adding of the bones. Now in this case the sort of size of the hands isn't a massive kind of character feature, so I wouldn't have any problem with sizing it up. But obviously it's kind of horses for courses. You do the work that you need to retain the key facts of your character. The objective here is more to learn kind of what you can get away with the defaults and standards, and then get enough experience, and then maybe later go to making a custom skeleton where you can make things just as you want them to fit your small-handed character, or maybe spend some time just deleting the bones until you've just got one for the thumb, or one chain for the thumb and one chain for the mitt-shaped hand. So that's pretty good. So I'll go back up to clavicle L, and the reason for that is, of course, that we have a mirror function here. So I go mirror, mirror children, and we'll have a look at the face on. Do mirror, and the other lot fits in pretty nicely. It could do with a bit more work here, but I'm going to move on and do the legs. Now the legs is a special case because if you go up to the pelvis, you can see that the pelvis has this branch out at a particular angle, and so if I move the pelvis with update children on, the following happens, which is suboptimal. We've just spent some time doing the shoulders, so yeah, I mean, I guess you could start with the pelvis and then work everything back from there, but it's kind of easier generally to, in this case anyway, to put the shoulders in first. So I'll put the shoulders in first, and so instead of going from pelvis, what we'll do is we'll move the legs down and then put the legs down, so there's the IK foot root, so I presume the legs come off that? No, they don't. So we want from the pelvis, just to kind of tidy in the rest of the chains away, and there we've got thigh R. So I guess I'll go the other, reverse this time, see if that works. Okay, so as I start doing this, of course, then I'm going to end up with some issues that relate to bones further down the chain, but the knees need placing better as well. Okay, so from thigh we go to calf, and I might need to look around the side view for this one because it shows a better position of the knees in that case. I think it's about right actually, up a bit maybe. Means it's kind of quite a good idea to build some element of position, like slightly bent knee, or maybe a feature of the mesh to show where knees and elbows are, because it's very tempting to simplify poses to being straight down that might reflect the way you model them, but it kind of saves work in the long run to add a bit of definition in there by either by modelling or by pose. So back up to the top of the chain, hit the mirror button. All looks good, and then I've just got to move the pelvis around. Once I've done the pelvis, I should have a look at the neck area, and I'll show you why. So pelvis, but turn off update children and get that angle pelvis to legs to be about what it was. So you might notice that attached to pelvis, if I fold up the spine and the thighs, so attached to pelvis are these IK hand roots and IK foot roots. No, they're not attached to pelvis, they go to direct to the root. So these will have moved, so you can see there's some IK hand roots there which should be moved down as well, but I'm going to miss those out. You can see the idea, and they don't mirror. So you start with the things that start from the there. Put on update children, and then you should get the the things that relate to that all moving up and down and the same, including that one, and then you do this one last. So which would be that one. Okay, so where were we? So I was just going to have a look at what happens with the character, in particular in relation to the head. So my character has a kind of a very limited neck, and this shows in the way it sort of turns up through motion. So if we go to skin and go edit weights, and first of all we're going to get a weight loading from an existing character, which makes things which gives us something to work off, really, that's all. So we're going to use the Manny Simple, which is what the pose was based on originally, and transfer those weights. Okay, now if I now start selecting, we can see how those particular bones are influenced. Now if we go up here to, I say up here in kind of visual terms rather than in this list, the actual position is somewhere where I have to keep strolling through the list to remember where it is, because there's a lot of things which we want to talk about which are more there. So there it is in the list. So we can see what's trapped by the head is kind of very much the top side but not the bottom side. So what I need to do really is paint in the head and probably neck 02 as well to grab head area, and then neck 01 can be literally just neck. So if you look at the position currently, so I can go back and move neck 01 down and move neck 02 down a bit, but obviously you want to make sure they don't bump into the next items in the chain, which is spine 05. So you've got to be a little bit careful, and at this point it's probably quite a good idea to start switching towards local coordinates to move those. But if I go back to skeleton editing, then I'll probably lose this weighting anyway, so it will redo the weighting based on Manny Simple. But yeah, so if you want to paint weights though, it's kind of easy. You've got settings here, radius and strength. This fall off setting could probably be a little bit smaller. It gives you a sharper edge, the least fall off you've got. So for things like bony items like the jaw and the back of the skull, anything that's close over bone in a real thing, whatever that would be, is probably better as a small fall off, and then bigger fall off for areas of small bones that are likely to be sharing a lot of influence over particular verts. Okay, but you really want the kind of the head to be very much limited and restricted, constrained to verts that have no influence from any other bone thing. And this is where you start to run up against some of the limitations that your character will have through its shaping, and the only way to do it really is to have a go. You can't kind of guess how a character's going to work, and you do need to kind of start thinking in the round about how a character's form follows its function, and how maybe the types of movement your character can do are limited by its shape. You don't want bits of actual character clipping with itself, and if kind of armour is its thing, like it's always in warrior mode, then you're going to have to limit the flexibility and the amount of influence to one particular joint. And you can't kind of save yourself by making these things as separate objects and have them just attached, because still you've got to think about how the movement might clip through the armour. And sometimes you'll notice on game characters specifically, especially in fighting games, if they have armour, it's a little bit reduced size, slightly cosplay-ish rather than functional, because they need to allow characters to move in quite superhuman types of ways. Okay, I could do a better job than that, but I haven't got time. But you can see, anyway, the process. So I'm going to go with that. I'm going to accept that, and let's see what happens. So here we can put a preview animation in. And I want to choose something with a reasonable amount of different sorts of business. There's one sort of like recovery from landing from a jump or some such. Jump recovery, there we go. So you can see there's a little bit of issues around the back of the knee there. There's not actually much movement with the head, so kind of not. You can reduce the speed actually to make this a little bit easier to understand, easy to follow through. Plus you can get rid of, I've turned on bone visibility, but you don't have to have full bone visibility. So the shoulders is a bit iffy still. But here, around the side of the head, it was kind of caving in somewhat. Collapsing, and that's decently fixed. So a bit of time, a bit more careful prep, and it's really quick to go back and just revise some of these positions and weightings to get something closer to what you want. That's not too bad. You can see that's that's kind of functional, and it's allowing a certain amount of movement. Just a little bit of a tweak around the shoulder would be better. The actual movement doesn't have much. The actual animation doesn't have much movement for the head anyway, so that's quite good. And my character wouldn't be designed to have kind of masses of interesting and kind of expressive head movements. So, you know, bar a few tweaks here and there, not too bad at all. Okay, so this is all very good, but if you want to animate with this, you don't want to be just kind of dragging bones around and doing all sorts of weird stretching. I mean, it's possible to get some stuff done like that, but it's really not very direct, and it's not very quick and convenient. So for that, what you really need is a control rig. So to get a control rig on this is disturbingly simple. So I'm going to save what I've done. Shut this down. And then let's hunt for a control rig. So I've got a filter for that. There we go. So we've got 3 in here, and the one that you want for this is very much that one, which is previewing quite nicely what you'll get. So I want this, but I don't kind of want to spoil it for existing characters, so I'm going to duplicate. And rename it Sharpish before I end up confusing myself. And drop my character's name in there. Okay, and I'm just going to move it into the content folder where all my other junk is. I've got a sort of assets folder of all the stuff that I'm not using in this demonstration, and where I keep my the items needed for my character anyway. So I'm just going to take off that filter, and there it is ready. So when I say ready, it's ready for us to go in there. One of the things that Unreal's interface has, which it's just a use of language really. I find that you can do loads of stuff just by seeing what works as a preview. It's kind of like, if it works as a preview, then these two things will go together. So we have a preview mesh here, and simply we just go like that. I'm going to change it to my crude character. There we go. So that's your character with epic skeleton. It's been adjusted to fit this character, and then the control rig works on positions of the bones. So yeah, there we are, kind of done. Okay, let's save that. There we have a control rig. So shut this down, drag one of these into the viewport. You get a layers thing, you get a new level sequence, and you get to start animating it. So there it is. If you wanted to do more with this, you can put similar characters, minor differences. Obviously, you can just slot those in instead of the particular mesh. So yeah, easy as pie. And just to prove if that's the right word, so what I can do is constrain the selection just to the items that are in this particular sequencer. Try and get this thing. It's kind of worthwhile when you click the thing you think, just to glance over and see what name it has, kind of just for next time. And so this seems to work with kind of one axis at a time. It's really difficult to get both these two axes, which I presume is because it might be auto keying. So it's just, I can make it go live. So if I just drag this up, you can see there Or you see how bad that knee position is as well. So you can see that collapse there. I made this mesh kind of to test out, as a demonstration piece to show how many edge loops you might need to get a decent setting for that. So lift a leg, hit the space bar, and then rotate the foot accordingly. There you go. We're starting to do a walk cycle. Okay, nice and easy. Job's done. All right, that's it for this one. Hope this proves useful to you. So you should be able to find in my channel, or linked via other sources, the previous video, the steps leading up to this. Okay, thank you.